Welcome to the March edition of Bridge to India's monthly update on renewable power tenders and policies. We start with the tender and auction updates. Utility scale tender issuance in March stood at 1,131 megawatt, 82% more than in February. However, project allocation was down 40% at 500 megawatt. Overall, for FY 2022, tender issuances was up by 44% year-on-year at 27 gigawatt, and allocation was down 12% at 17.5 gigawatt. Pace of auctions has remained weak since SECI is now prioritizing tying up previously auctioned projects with discoms. Looking at rooftop solar, tender issuance in the month was 28 megawatts, and total issuance for the financial year was up 113% year-on-year at 1,462 megawatt. Let's examine the evolving tender landscape in India. Growing discom bankability concerns have most developers preferring central government offtake. However, many states like Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Andhra Pradesh have issued tenders with mixed results. On the technology front, SECI is experimenting with many new tender types such as solar wind hybrid, storage hybrid, round the clock, and peak power to address power output profile concerns of vanilla solar projects. Share of vanilla solar tenders has declined over time, and the trend is expected to accelerate in future. Let us now dive into specifics of individual tenders and auctions for the month. March saw as many as 20 new utility-scale tenders across multiple states, aggregating a total capacity of 1,131 megawatt. 4 of them, aggregating to 802 megawatt, were project development tenders, and the remaining 16, aggregating to 329 megawatt, were EPC ones. There were 4 new rooftop tenders totaling 28 megawatt in March. Only one auction was conducted in the month by GUVNL under its Tranche 8 500 megawatt solar tender. Bid submission deadlines were extended for 6 tenders. We will now look at some key tenders issued in the month. Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation issued a 100 megawatt floating solar project development tender. Bid submission date is 25th April. Madhya Pradesh, Punjab and Kerala issued project development tenders with capacities of 450, 217 and 35 megawatt respectively under Component A of KUSUM scheme. Project sizes for Madhya Pradesh and Kerala were at 0.5 to 2 megawatt and for Punjab at 1 to 2 megawatt. Let us now look at a few key EPC tenders. GSECL was the leading issuer with 5 individual tenders of 40, 30, 27, 16 and 2 megawatt capacities. SECI issued a solar EPC tender on behalf of Singaneri Collieries for 44 megawatt in Telangana. Bid submission date is 17 May. Energy Efficiency Services Limited issued a tender for an aggregate capacity of 86 megawatt solar to be set up in various locations near PSPCL substations in Punjab. Commissioning timeline is set at 6 months. Neyveli Lignite Corporation issued sub-tenders for setting up 100 megawatt solar and 50 megawatt wind capacity that they won under Tranche 4 of SECI's wind solar hybrid tender in August 21. Bid submission dates are 8th April and 11th April 2022 respectively. Let us now look at the 4 new rooftop tenders for the month. Railway Energy Management Company issued a 14 megawatt EPC tender to develop solar projects in Uttar Pradesh for self-consumption. Bid submission date is 17th May. 3 residential rooftop tenders were issued by Himachal Pradesh, Nagaland and Haryana for total capacities of 7, 3.8 and 2.7 megawatt respectively. Coming to results, GUVNL's Tranche 8 solar 500 megawatt tender was oversubscribed by 4.5 times. Winners were SJVN, UPC Solar, Hinduja, and Photum at tariffs of INR 2.29 per kilowatt hour. It is worth recalling that GUVNL's last solar auction exactly 1 year ago yielded winning tariffs of 2.2 to 2.21. The tariff number is quite staggering in the context of soaring module and input costs, falling rupee, and restrictions such as BCD and ALMM. Developers remain hungry for assets, sustaining aggressive bidding behavior.
Let us discuss major policy and regulatory updates. We start with updates from the central government. CERC approves new deviation settlement mechanism regulations. The central regulator has tightened deviation bands and increased penalties for deviations for renewable power projects under the new DSM regulations. Zero penalty tolerance band has been reduced from 10 to 15% to 5% for over-injection and 10% for under-injection. Moreover, power producers shall not be paid for any over-injection above 10%. Penalty for under-injection has been restructured and linked to ancillary service charge for secondary and tertiary services instead of PPA tariff. Effective date of the new regulation is yet to be notified. The new deviation bands are significantly tighter than at present, but more lenient compared to draft proposals. The new regulation inadvertently promotes overscheduling and will result in higher deviation penalties for power producers. Average annual penalty amount is expected to increase from 0.15% to 1.65% of revenues for the same schedule. A shift to overscheduling can bring down annual penalty amount to about 0.5 to 0.8% of revenues. The developers are obviously unhappy about the changes and various representations have been made to the government in this regard. MNRE grants SCOD extension for wind power projects. MNRE has granted 3-month extension to wind power projects auctioned by SECI, NTPC and NHPC, provided PPAs and order for turbines for such projects were placed before 15th June 2021. The extension shall be available to developers on a case-to-case basis. The extension has been granted following requests from project developers facing supply chain and logistical issues during COVID lockdown last year. But we are not sure if this relief would be of any material help, as most under construction projects are facing serious viability issues with turbine and other input costs having gone up by about 15 to 20% in the last 18 months. MNRE extends commissioning deadline for solar wind hybrid projects to 24 months. MNRE has amended competitive bidding guidelines for solar wind hybrid projects and extended commissioning deadline from 18 months to 24 months from effective date of PPA. The amendment comes following severe delays in wind project execution. As per our database, average completion time for SECI wind projects so far has been 3 years from auction date. Ministry of Power issues guidelines for procurement of battery storage services. The Ministry of Power has issued guidelines for competitive procurement of battery storage services to support renewable power projects, ancillary services, optimize use of transmission projects, and peak load management at distribution level. Minimum tenure of storage purchase agreement is specified as 8 years. Minimum tender size is stipulated at 1 MW for intrastate and 50 MW for interstate projects. Projects smaller than 250 MW need to be commissioned within 15 months and larger projects may be commissioned within 24 months. Provisions relating to compensation for curtailment and reduced offtake, payment security mechanism, financial closure and tariff adoption guidelines are same as those for solar and wind power projects. Crucially, it seems the government is not keen to offer any incentives to early adopters of battery storage projects. In a nascent and expensive sector like battery storage, incentives are crucial for driving demand. We believe that the government's top objective for battery storage should be to spur demand and nurture an ecosystem through pilot installations while minimizing investor risk. MNRE reduces performance bank guarantee to 3% of project cost. MNRE has reduced bank guarantee requirement from 5% to 3% of project cost for tenders issued by SECI, NTPC and NHPC until 31st March 2023. Lower PBG requirement was available for tenders issued until 31st March 2021 but was extended following a December 2021 order by the Ministry of Finance. The extension was granted to ensure competition in auctions following requests from project developers who are facing financial challenges due to rising costs. The move is bound to sustain high bidding interest in tenders. MNRE issues guidelines for implementation of Intrastate Green Energy Corridors Phase 2 scheme. MNRE has set a target to install 10,753 circuit kilometers of transmission lines and 27,546 megavolt ampere substation capacity across multiple states at an expected cost of 120 billion rupees, including 33% capital subsidy from central government. States are required to complete tendering process by 31st December 2023 and commission entire capacity by 31st March 2026. Planned infrastructure will be able to support 19.4 gigawatt of solar and wind park capacity, mainly in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. Implementation of Phase 1 intrastate GEC projects has been delayed by over 1 year due to right-of-way issues, delay in award of contracts and litigation. Growth of transmission infrastructure with a longer gestation period of up to 5 years needs to be planned proactively and urgently to support growth of renewable capacity. Let us now discuss major policy and regulatory updates from the states. Andhra Pradesh High Court directs DISCOMs to procure renewable power at PPA tariffs. In a long-awaited judgment, the Andhra Pradesh High Court has ruled that state DISCOMs must honor solar and wind power PPAs and buy power at the agreed tariffs. DISCOMs have been directed to clear all pending dues by 26 April 2022. The court has also ruled that as renewable power enjoys must-run status, neither DISCOMs nor SLDC can curtail or stop power evacuation unless in case of threat to grid security and only after prior notice to power producers. This is a welcome ruling and should address investor anxiety around renegotiation risk. However, concerns still remain that the Andhra Pradesh government may choose to refer the case to the Supreme Court, delaying final resolution, and or seek more time from the High Court for payments. Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana and Odisha approve grid tariffs. Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana and Odisha regulators have approved green tariffs with premium of 0.45 to 2 rupees per kilowatt hour over applicable grid tariffs. All consumers in Madhya Pradesh, Haryana and Odisha are eligible, while in Uttarakhand, consumers with connected load of greater than 75 kilowatt or 88 kilovolt ampere shall be eligible for green tariffs. Green attributes shall not be transferred to consumers in any of the states. High premium over grid tariffs and non-transferability of green attributes make green tariffs unattractive for corporate consumers. Uptake in Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, where green tariffs were introduced around 10 years back, has been very low. This concludes key updates from Indian renewable power market from March 2022. We hope you found this update useful. You can view all tender, policy and regulatory information on the renewable power sector in real time at India RE Navigator, a one-stop market intelligence portal for the renewable sector. You can also write to us at contact@bridge2india.com if you have a query or feedback. We would love to hear back from you. We'll be back next month with another update. Until then, goodbye and take care.